So the character I've picked for this morning is someone that is only mentioned once in the Bible. And the title at the top is The Lad Without a Name. I wonder if anyone's guessed who it is yet. So, I'll read a portion where we find him, and then it sets everything in place. So we find him in the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verses 1 to 14. We find, after these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. Then a great multitude followed him, because they saw his signs, which he performed on those who were diseased. And Jesus went up onto the mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. Now the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was near. Then Jesus lifted his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming towards him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread that these may eat?" But he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, and everyone might have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a lad here who has 5 loaves and 2 small fishes." So we found our character, haven't we? But what is that among so many? Then Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place. So the men sat down in numbers about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down, and likewise of the fish, as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." Therefore they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which were left over by those who had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the signs that Jesus did, said, "This is truly the prophet who is to come into the world." So we find him in the middle of 5,000 people. It's quite a company of people, isn't it? You know, in the other accounts and the other Gospels, it says that this actual event came after the death of John the Baptist. Now, John the Baptist had been preaching and telling the people that Jesus was coming, and he'd been arrested. And at this point, just after this happened, there was the feeding of the 5,000. And so John the Baptist was imprisoned, and he was actually killed. So this is happening after that. But in John's Gospel, if you read the verse just before, maybe I should have done, it says who Jesus was and why he had come. So there they were, this group of people, and they had followed Jesus. And it was getting dark, and the people were getting hungry. And then we find the lad who comes with his 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Maybe this morning we should just give him a name so we can call him something. So, Ellis, can you give me a name that we can call this lad? Richard. Right, okay, that's a good name, that is. Right, so Richard comes with his 5 loaves and his 2 fishes. But, you know, when you think of 5 loaves, they're not loaves like we know a loaf. It wasn't 5 big loaves. It was like a small, flat pita bread type thing, made of barley flour. And barley was the flour that was inexpensive, and it was the food that the common people and the poor people would have eaten. I thought it was interesting because we've had Mallory spoken to us for the last 3 Sundays on different feasts, and the first one he spoke about the Passover, and I thought it was interesting that the barley bread was used at Passover. It was the same bread that he would have used. And when Jesus introduced the Lord's table, as we gather together, it's called communion, we come and we celebrate that Jesus died and that he rose again. And so, but when Jesus put that all together, it was using barley bread. And I just wondered whether there was a connection, because here we have 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. Was there a connection between Jesus feeding the 5,000 for their spiritual need, and yet the table and Jesus dying and rising again was for our spiritual need? Because at the end of what I read, it said that the men said, "This is truly the prophet which is to come." So maybe they'd linked something there together. I just thought it was an interesting point. So we'll now come to look at the lad, because that's what I'm supposed to be talking about. So we'll look at Richard. Now, Richard, I think we can have 3 good points from Richard, because we don't know much about him. We don't know who he was. We don't know actually why he was there. When I was in Sunday school, I remember the Sunday school teacher telling me that his mum packed his lunch up and off he went to see Jesus. But was he actually going to see Jesus in the first place? Because it doesn't seem to be anybody else had any food with them. Well, why did he have food? And so I was thinking a little bit different than that. And I'm thinking that his lunch was packed up, his mum packed him up, and I think he was about, 14, 15-ish, we'll call him, so a lad. And I think he was going to go fishing. That's what I think he was doing. And so his mum packed his lunch up and off he went. But as he went to go fishing, he heard that Jesus was speaking. And I think he was captivated by what Jesus was saying, and I think he began to follow him with the crowd. So he was searching for Jesus. Something that was in his heart, that he had that desire to follow Jesus and to find out what Jesus was saying. Maybe he'd heard John speaking, because John the Baptist would go out and speak, and maybe he'd picked up something that he'd heard and was linking the two together. He wanted to hear the words of Jesus, and he was listening. And I wonder if he did believe that it was Jesus. So the first point of him was he was searching Jesus. Then he had faith. Now, if you were in a crowd of 5,000 people, and it was more than that because that was just the men, so there would have been the wives and children as well. And so in all of that, to have 5 loaves and 2 fishes, he must have had some faith that Jesus would use this. And so he had obviously watched Jesus perform miracles, and he had watched him. And he must have had faith because he gave it all to the disciples. He didn't just didn't think, well, I'll keep one bread back and a little fish, and I'll just give the other. He gave all of it to him. So he must have had faith to believe that Jesus was going to do something amazing. And then he gave everything. He gave all of his lunch. He didn't keep any back. And in that, I think he was quite an amazing young lad, really, to think that his 5 loaves and 2 fishes were going to feed all these people. I wonder what he was really thinking. So that's what we've learnt. We've learnt that he was searching after Jesus, he had faith, and he gave all. So we today, those of us who know Jesus, we have followed him. Some people are still searching for Jesus, and he is worth searching because he is an amazing God. And so we need to search Jesus. We need to spend time with him. We need to know what he wants for us in our lives. And to be, Lord, to be in a place where we can hear from him. In Psalm 91 it says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." So when we come to that place and we really know Jesus, and we're in that secret place, that place that makes you're communing with God, he covers us with his wings and he keeps us safe. So we need to spend time with Jesus to be in that place, listening and learning from him and knowing his direction in our lives. We also need faith. You know, when you come to Jesus and you've asked him into your heart, then that faith in him begins, and as you seek him and read his word and pray, then you grow in that faith. We need to have our whole faith and our whole trust in Jesus, that we might grow in him. In Colossians 2:7 it says, "Rooted and built up in him, established in faith as you have been taught, abounding in it with thanksgiving." So we need to be rooted in Jesus. We need to be there, that we might grow in him. And then the lad, Richard, he didn't hold anything back. He gave the whole of his lunch. So as we follow Jesus, we need to give our all to him. Not because we have to, not because it's a law written that we have to give everything to God, but because of our love for him, then we want to give. Jesus came, a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated Easter, where Jesus came and he laid down his life because he loved us. That we might have a relationship with God and that we might be forgiven for our sins. The Bible tells us that we are all sinners and that we all need Jesus. And so when we have experienced that love and know that Jesus dwells within us and that we have accepted him and know his love, then we want to give our all to him. He gave all that he had for us, and this morning we should give to him, not because we have to, but because we love to serve him. In Deuteronomy 6:5 it says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength." It tells us that we should give everything to him because he gave everything to us. And when we give our lives to him and we know that God is with us and he blesses us so much, he sustains us and he keeps us. And the prophet Isaiah reminds us that God is so good. So I just want to finish with reading this verse. Isaiah 40, verse 28. "Have you not known, have you not heard, the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is weary. His understanding is unsearchable." I'm having trouble with the vision. I think I need to go to the opticians. Anyway, God is so good, and I could just encourage everyone this morning that, he is worth seeking. He's worth having faith in, and he's worth serving this morning. Amen.